Hello, and welcome to On Point, a podcast by Oak Street Funding, where we sit down with the industry leaders to hear their stories and share their insights. I'm your host today, Scott Stars, VP of Strategic Markets at Oak Street Funding. Today, I'm joined by Brian Kutayiah, owner and founder of Clearview Insurance. Brian, thanks for joining us today, and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your path to where you are today.
Oh, man. You have time?
Yeah.
Clearview started about 3.5 years ago. Prior to this, I was a captive Allstate agent, and I had a great time there. Started in 2014, and I really ended up there by accident. I had a bunch of these tax offices, worked 4 months out of the year, and I got married, and my wife said, "Are you really not going to do anything after April?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm going to the gym, hanging out with the boys." I was like, all right, I should probably find something else to do with this free time that I have. And I started looking at P&C insurance. Had no idea that it was a viable business opportunity. And I was doing some research, looking at it. I tried to go independent, call Progressive Travelers, and they said, "Do you have a book?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, come back to us when you have a book." How am I supposed to do that? Some recruiter from Allstate reached out and says, "Hey, we think you'd be a great fit in Allstate." So, sounds good to me. Went in, see the presentation, and I was blown away by the business opportunity. Just insurance, P&C insurance as a whole. The idea of building reoccurring revenue, all of that was exciting. So I started the Allstate agency, and I had a great time. I had started from scratch, built up to about 10 million. And in 2020, I had my best year ever. And right after that, companies started making these comp changes. It took me about 3 weeks to understand what I was getting paid. And, back of my head, I was just thinking to myself, this is probably only going to get worse. So it might be the right time to go. So I decided to sell the Allstate and started Clearview Insurance.
Tell me a little bit about your company as a founder. Why did you decide to start Clearview Insurance? And to kind of build upon that, what was your long-term vision originally?
So I decided to start Clearview because, one, I wanted to be in control of my own destiny, right? And two, I thought there was a bigger opportunity. At the time, I was talking to John Hewitt, who had founded Jackson Hewitt, Liberty Tax. I was a Liberty Tax franchisee in the tax business. And, John said, "Hey, Brian, you've done a great job adding insurance to your tax practice. Why don't you come teach our franchisees to do the same?" So I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll franchise Clearview and go and work with these tax franchisees and show them how to add insurance to their current books of business." And that's really where the idea started. So we started up Clearview with the intention of being a franchise and distribute that way. We looked at the other franchises in the space and other market access companies. And, listen, everyone's a different flavor of ice cream.
Yeah.
And, we just felt like, okay, we wanted to do something that we would buy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the idea behind starting Clearview really came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to think, to kind of build upon what you're saying, in 3.5 years, 4 years,
yeah,
scratch independent,
yeah,
to just over 50 million in premium.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's an achievement right there. But you talk about the different flavors of ice cream, everybody has their own preference. So how do you sort of differentiate yourself in the marketplace?
So for us, and that's a tough one. It really depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
For us, I've built a scratch captive book. Now we've built a scratch independent book. We've built a really good foundation, and now we have these franchisees under us that are looking to do the same, right? So I think the things that differentiates us is we have the experience and we're willing to share that experience.
Right.
So that attracts the right type of person because we've solved a lot of problems. We've spent a lot of money to solve these problems. We've made these mistakes, and now you don't have to make those mistakes. So if you're looking for a business in a box, especially within insurance, and you want to build and scale something, then we're happy to work with you.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, maybe I don't want to build a business, I might want to do 1 or 2 policies here and there, we're not the right people to work with.
Yeah.
Right. We're wanting to work with folks that are, going to put their money where their mouth is. They're going to come to me and say, hey, I want a $10 million book. Help me get there. And we have the roadmap to help you get there.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of people we're looking for.
Yeah. And so as we get further in the conversation, thinking about our relationship, and I know we met back at PIA, New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I was there as a vendor. You were there as an attendee, and, kind of talking about growth initiatives and things of that nature. So take us through your growth journey, and how did you decide you wanted to use capital and work with Oak Street Funding?
Yeah. I remember meeting you that day, walked by your booth, and you're like, oh, what are you guys up to? We're like, yeah, we just started a scratch agency, and, we're going to expand nationwide, and we're going to do this and do that. And you laughed at me.
I hear it every day, right?
Yeah, you definitely said, oh, yeah, I hear that every day. We'll see. Yeah. I remember that was funny. I was like, yeah, I'll show you, Scott. Watch this.
I'm on a vision board somewhere in my face, right?
Yeah, exactly. Scott laughed. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for us, we started the organic growth in mid-21 when we started. It was crazy. I never even thought about an acquisition because we were just writing so much new business. What's the point? What's the need?
Yeah.
So we grew a ton that first year, just organically. And in 2022, it all came to a halt, right? Every carrier basically said, well, we don't really want to write new business. We want to take a step back. We want to pause. The issue was we had 1 year in. It's not like we had a book that we've been building for 20 years.
Yeah.
And, I got 4 kids to feed. So I got to find a way to keep growing.
Yeah.
So that's where the idea of acquisitions, came about. I think I called you and I said, hey, we're going to start looking to acquire some books in other states, right? Outside of New York. New York was locked down.
Yeah.
If any of you write business in New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we wanted to look at states that were still open for business that we can grow in. And that's where we started looking for acquisitions. And, we ended up buying a book in Georgia and Texas and Illinois and some of these other states where we can continue to write new business and grow. So that's where acquisitions for us came out of a necessity.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brian. So it's great kind of you've used some debt to help you get to where you are today through those acquisitions. I know we've worked with you on 4 acquisitions and 2 different transactions. So, what's next for your business? Where do you see yourself over the next, let's say, 5 years?
So now I think we're at the point where we've kind of settled in with these acquisitions. Things are going well with them. They're growing. But now we want to go back to focus more on that organic growth, right? We've built a really good foundation. We've got the right people in the right places, and we have all of these agents that are coming to us looking to acquire a franchise to work with us to grow and scale that way. And that's going to be a lot of our focus over the next several years is to how do we take these captive agents that are saying, hey, I don't know what I'm getting paid. I can't figure it out. I want to work with, I want access. I want to make more money, a family feed. So that's going to be a lot of my time and energy is working with these agents that are coming on board with us and helping them grow and scale their business to something that they really love and they enjoy. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be doing. And outside of that, I think we're another differentiator for us. We're probably one of the only franchises out there that encourages our franchisees to acquire. Yeah. Right. So from the time they come in with us, we have a game plan. Okay. What are we going to write? How are we going to grow? Where's our revenue going to be, right?
Yeah.
We teach them how to manage their P&L properly, how to keep equity in their business. Ultimately, that's for them to be set up to be able to acquire a book. Now, if we don't want to own everything.
Right.
Makes no sense. I can't manage a book, right, in, I don't know, New Mexico when I live in New York. I'm not going to do a great job doing that.
Right.
But can I find a local franchisee with the talent and the skills to do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we bring our folks in, we make sure that they come in with the intention to also grow by acquisition. So let's see what you can write. Let's build a scratch book. Awesome. You've done a great job. We know you can manage an acquisition.
Yeah.
We've got Oak Street in place. We've got our brokers that work with us. We have deals coming to us all the time. And it's just a matter of pairing up the right franchisee with the right deal.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah. So that's a good segue as I think about, we talk about the next 5 years and what your plans are. Looking back a little bit, what's something you would have done different?
I don't know. Everyone says hindsight is 20/20.
Sure.
I don't want to live life thinking of what could have been different. We're here now.
Yeah.
Right. And we have control over today and the decisions that we make tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say I would do anything different.
Well, let's rephrase it. And let's say somebody getting into the industry or newer to the industry.
Okay.
What would you say to them? Here's the best way to be successful early in your career.
How to be successful early in your career. Be intentional about everything that you do.
Sure.
Right. And what I find with most insurance agencies, they start off as a single producer, and that producer never leaves the producer role. Right. Hey, I own the book, I own the business, but yet you still do every single thing in the business. My advice would be figure out how to run a business, not just being a producer, right? Most books that we've looked at are just that single producer with maybe a handful of staff, but they live and breathe in the business and they can't even take a vacation. That's not a business. That's still just a job. So I think you ought to think about, how do I set this up as an actual business? It means you might make less money to start, which should be okay, but you're building an actual business and the business should really be able to run without you.
Yeah.
Right. You always hear people say this all the time. Work on your business, not in your business.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Right. It means that you ought to start doing these things from the time you start, because when you're deep in the weeds, it's really hard to get out.
Yeah. So when's the last time Brian has actually bound a policy?
I know.
Right.
It's been years. I do talk to customers. I take leads. Yes, I do all of that. I still love it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't do it as much as I want to, but I can't remember the last time I bound an actual policy.
Yeah. But you're talking to the carrier reps and you're doing everything.
Yeah. So my job is completely different now. My job is about, maintaining that relationship, opening up new relationship, opening up new markets, right? Doing things like that. And I have folks that are writing quotes and managing P&Ls and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So Brian, talking about our relationship a little further, what made you decide to use Oak Street as your finance partner?
Honestly, it's the relationship. Sure. Right. You and I met, and I think I think I called you 5 or 6 times before we actually did a deal, talking over other deals. And, you took the time to kind of run a little valuation with me. Why is this good? Why is this bad? Which is really nice. And I've talked to other banks and, everyone was like, okay, send me the numbers. Let me take a look at it. I'll get back to you, blah, blah, blah. So for me, relationship is huge. We're in insurance. We're in a relationship-based driven business. And it's all about that for us at the end of the day, to make sure we all just have a good working relationship. So I like the fact that you take my calls, walk me through stuff.
Yeah.
That's important. That's why we're here.
Yeah. So that's why we're here now. But since forming our relationship, is there anything that sticks out that you can think of, kind of Oak Street going above and beyond to sort of assist in that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you guys have been great, and you're not paying me to say that. I'm not. No, yeah. I think not just you, but the closing team, the underwriters, everyone that we've dealt with so far has been pleasant and really easy to work with. So that's super important to us, right? We have a question, I can't reach you, I can reach somebody else.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So just that service that you guys provide, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say the question is, would you work with Oak Street Funding again? And if so, why? With that being said, we're always working together, but, anything there you can elaborate on?
Would I work with Oak Street again if I had to do this all over? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. Hands down. Yeah.
Well, Brian, thank you for being here and sharing your story. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for listening to On Point, a podcast by Oak Street Funding. I'm Scott Stars, and tune in next time wherever you listen to podcasts as we get on point. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at OnPointWithOSF. Subscribe and leave us a review.